Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Comic Capers. It's just me this time, no Lilith, no Charlie, but that's okay because I have a special guest returning once again to talk to me. She's been here a few times, Miss Kelly Thompson.
Hey, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. It's always great talking to you.
Not sure everyone agrees, but for our purposes tonight, let's roll with it.
Again, like we were just saying, this is more entertaining than the debates, I'm sure.
I don't know about that.
But yeah,
I like to see what Kamala Harris has to say. I'm a fan, so we'll see. Anyway, yeah, Black Widow today, huh?
Black Widow came out, Deadpool came out.
Yes,
I was sitting there reading. I was thinking, man, they should have just put out the newest issue of Captain Marvel. It could have been Kelly Thompson week. But yeah, like we were saying, I think the last time we talked is in November. So yeah, it was like 10, almost 11 months ago, and it was for Deadpool #1.
Wow, that's crazy.
And then today was only issue 7. So
yeah, a weird year makes all that stuff a little bizarre, huh?
Yeah, I think what was it? I think there was a delay. Was it in January or?
No, it was right. The month we were supposed to come out, April, is when all the comics stopped. And that was when we were supposed to debut. So we got pushed. They scheduled us to coincide roughly with they like to do it a month or two ahead of whenever the movie releases. So I think that's why we ended up in September. And of course, due to state of the world, the movie is moved again. So, but we're already going. So too bad. Hopefully it lines up so that the trade comes out when the movie releases, and that'll be good. So that's always a nice bump to get people interested.
Yeah,
that said, I mean, creators would always love to have a movie bump, I'm sure. Captain Marvel certainly benefited from it back in whatever year that was that we started doing that. But I mean, this stands completely separate from the film. I do try to write pretty new reader friendly so that someone who's interested in the film can pick it up and read a great Black Widow story and not need to know every little freaking thing about her. But it's very much its own story. I mean, I think especially as anyone who read today, that is not something you're going to be seeing in the movies anytime soon. I mean, as far as I know.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, and like you said, it's very new reader friendly, but it's all your books are very much in the Marvel universe. Like here, you're getting Hawkeye, you're getting Winter Soldier, you're getting Arcade. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes the Arcade seems like a joke, but I mean, he actually seems menacing here.
I think he's a little bit of both. I like to play him as sort of the arrogant joke, but that, you sort of can make the mistake of not taking him seriously enough when he actually has the ability to do a lot of crazy, terrible things. So it's a little bit of a mix. I mean, we've still got some mystery around who are the villains, sort of who Arcade's working for and all of that stuff. So I can't reveal some of that, although I think there are some pretty good clues. And we didn't say his name today, but we saw one of them who, if anyone, for people who are more in the know, they can figure that out, is Red Guardian is in that. He showed up today. But yeah, I mean, the big thing, I mean, I guess we just go in with the spoilers, right? I mean, the big thing is that there's a baby.
Yes.
That very much looks like Nat. And, it's honestly, this is a really incredibly emotional story because I wanted to tell a story with Nat that would genuinely change her. That wouldn't just be hyperbole, because we see that so much, like, oh, so-and-so will never be the same again, and listen, we have to do that because we're all out here trying to sell our wares and hype our stories. And listen, that's what you hope for in every story anyway, that you're going to tell this really moving, emotional thing. But I felt like with what Nat goes through, her life is so sort of traumatic that the bar is pretty high to have something that really gets under her skin and like changes her and affects her. And this was what I wanted to do from the jump. And I honestly am shocked they let me do it. So it's going to be a really tough story for her, but also a really beautiful one. I mean, I don't want to say the Nat that we're seeing in the first 2 issues of this book is the happiest version of her we've ever seen. And there are things in 3 that will certainly suggest that it's not that simple, but it's definitely a happy Nat. And, I see a lot of speculation, people talking about, oh, it's a fake out, it's this, it's that, it's the other. So obviously there's a mystery here, and I can't just reveal that, or what's the point? But it's not a fake out. Like it's not going to be something where, oh, it just doesn't exist. Like there's no magical pull out the rug from underneath it. This is like a real story with real emotional consequences for Nat and for everyone who's sort of involved.
Oh yeah, I think I see where you're going. I think with Clint and Bucky, where it's like, Nat's probably been brainwashed and put in this situation against her will, but she's probably maybe the happiest she's ever been. So it's like, do we pull her out? Is there a nefarious scheme? But then we're gonna kill we might kill any chances for happiness she has.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're really wrestling with it because, they live crazy lives too. And so they know that the most likely thing is that something horrible is afoot, in which case they can't just leave her there. But, you know, they also, there's also a certain amount of questioning for them of like, how far are we supposed to go here? Like, how much is something that's the right thing to do, or that's the thing Nat would want us to do? And how much is the thing where she's the fucking Black Widow and we should just get out of her way sometimes, So I think it's a real question for them that they have not decided on because they don't know the right answer. Someone else is going to come into play that's going to make that a little more clear for them in issue 3.
But just like that fight scene in the alleyway in issue 2 today, I mean, very cinematic between the story and the art. Just her ripping up the side of that dress, be like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. Elena did an incredible job with that. Oh. She, because I'd known what she'd done in issue 1 with that incredible hallway scene, and so I really just told her that we want to be channeling those sort of really cinematic action scenes. We'll have at least one of those in every issue. That's, I don't know, between 4 and 5 pages, which is about how much action you get in most comics. There are certainly exceptions, but in your average storytelling format, that's what you get. I think issue 5 is the exception, just in the sense that there's a much larger action sequence, and because the formula has changed a little bit. But Elena is just killing it, and man, Jordi Belair, those colors dialed right into my veins. It's really a dream book for me to work on, sort of on every level.
Oh, I mean, again, just story and art, it's all just beautiful. And when I heard that movie got pushed back again until, now it's going to be a whole year late. I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? What's going to go on with the book? But you had a good point. If the trade's out, nice, good looking trade in Barnes and Noble and stuff. By the time that movie comes out, that might be
wouldn't be the worst thing. Be the worst thing. And the story we're doing after this first arc, I can't say too much about it because I don't want to talk about sort of the emotional fallout of this first arc for Nat, but she'll still be in San Francisco. And it's going to be more traditional Black Widow in the sense of donning a costume and going out, to do a thing. But it's still a little bit of a tweak from where she's been before, and that sort of builds upon the first arc and what she went through there, and how she overcame it and all that stuff.
Well, speaking of the next arc, that's the other thing I was going to ask you with, with the shutdown earlier this year. Did you get ahead on writing at all?
Well, no, Black Widow is definitely one of the books that got paused, which was less of an issue for me, but I wish we'd had a chance to get ahead on art, just because Elena's art is so incredible. And, that kind of level of detail and level of storytelling and consideration that she's doing really takes time. And so I really wish we hadn't lost a couple months there, not just because I'm sure it was a hardship on Elena as well as me, and everyone else involved. But comics, you're never ahead in comics. They just move so fast. It's a grueling schedule, and especially for artists and colorists and letterers, who are the guys who have to come in last. It's a it's a grind like every time, you even when you think you're ahead, it's like you fool. It's like looking at polls. Don't trust the poll, don't trust the deadline. Just make sure you vote, keep moving. You're not ahead.
Wow.
And so we probably, I don't know what exactly the schedule is, but probably I can't keep Elena for we'll probably have to have a guest artist for at least one issue before she's able to come back. But I'm doing my best to structure the story around that so it really works in our favor as opposed to being sort of a downside. But I really think she's doing sort of the best work of her career. I think a lot of people are really going to pay attention to it. It's really beautiful stuff. I think we're coordinating really well too. We're bringing out really good things in each other. Like, I write pretty tight scripts, but she's really doing a great job of like bringing me what I want, but also bringing me the stuff I didn't even know I wanted by doing it in an interesting way that I might not have thought of. So it's been a really great collaboration, and neither of us can speak highly enough about Jordy. So it's just been great. It's the comic you dream of getting to do from start to finish. So,
I was gonna say, with no conventions this year, do you know if Elena has like does commissions or has a website or anything like that?
I think she was doing some this summer, so I don't know how her schedule traditionally works, but I would check her Twitter
Hmm.
and check that out. I suspect she does have that. She might also, I don't know if she sells pages or not, but she
Oh,
might.
oh yeah. Here's a friend of mine, Ray. She just commented. Hi Kelly, big fan of yours. I've not read 2 yet, but don't mind
Uh-oh.
the spoilers. We'll be picking up at the comic shop when I get a chance to pop in. Okay, here's this question. Having written utterly awesome series such as Captain Marvel, West Coast Avengers, and Hawkeye, what are the appealing things that you find when writing? 1, cosmic powerhouse. 2, ensemble cast. 3, more street level lighter stuff. 4, wacky Deadpool stories. 5, more intense espionage like Black Widow. All above mentioned are so diverse. Love how you handle each and every one.
Wow. That is a very nice question and very nice things to say about me and my work. I appreciate it. That's also a really big question. Let me see if I can remember all of them. So the answer to cosmic is I have a lot of trouble with it,
Mm.
honestly. I'm street level stuff comes much easier to me. It's one of the, every writer has different sort of insecurities and ways in which we feel we're weak or we're concerned we're weak, whether they're accurate or not. And we all sort of, I wear mine very open because I don't try to hide things because I feel like people will find out anyway. So I really struggle with, you know, don't make me write a character who's a genius. That's hard for me. I am not a genius. I'm an idiot. So that's really hard for me to write a genius, like to be smart enough within the story to make it all work. So, it's not that I don't want the challenge of that.
But just like
I
a little.
always want the challenge, but like Kate Bishop is always going to be easier. Kate Bishop is a very smart, wonderful, sassy, lovely, heroic character. She's not a genius. So it's a lot easier for me to get in that headspace. But if someone's like, hey, write some Reed Richards, I'm immediately like, okay, well, I really got to think about that. Like, that's not a space that I sort of operate in. So I feel that way a little bit about cosmic characters too. The street level stuff just comes really naturally to me. Sorry, my window's open. The So that comes really naturally to me, and I have to think a little harder and work a little harder on cosmic stuff. But that said, when you pull it off and people are loving it, like, you really feel that win,
Mhm.
as opposed to something that comes more naturally. I think espionage stuff is sort of middle ground to me. I think I really like those kind of stories, and so even if they're a little too smart for my regular functioning brain, I've read a lot and watched a lot of things that sort of inform that sort of genre a little bit. So certainly with Black Widow, I'm not getting a huge chance to show that off because we're telling such a strange story here, and also a lot of Nat crosses over with superhero so much.
Yeah.
So there's sort of a mix. The the writing big teams. Did he say something about witty banter? I can't remember now.
One of wacky Deadpool stories.
Okay. Deadpool is super easy and super hard at the same time. The thing that makes him easy is also the thing that makes him hard. You can do anything with him, and that makes him easy because you can plug him into any environment and like make him be the fly in the ointment. You know, he just works perfectly as that. But that also means he's already been in every story. Everyone's already told every story with him, and it can be hard to sort of, I don't know, lasso that and control it and contain it. I remember when I was writing him as a guest star in issues 2 and 3 of Mr. and Mrs. X, I was really worried because he's just such a greedy character. He just naturally sort of sucks up all the oxygen. And so it's a thing that you have to be careful with balance. But he's got such a fun voice, and there are so many opportunities, you know, so you just try to look for the best way to highlight them, you know.
I always thought the big challenge with Deadpool would be, it's like, you know, you want him to be funny, but it's like, have I done enough jokes? Have I done too many jokes? Is the humor going in the right direction? I always figure the humor might be the biggest challenge.
Well, it's definitely, I would definitely agree with you on the mix. Have I done enough? Have I done too much? Like, have I done enough that people are like, oh yeah, this is a comedy book, but have I done too much where they're like rolling their eyes and groaning? There's definitely a worry about that, but you can't worry that much about your sense of humor because you can never, that's not something you consult to taste for other people. Like, they either find the way you write funny or they don't, or they either find your voice for the character funny or they don't. So you can't worry a lot about that. It's either going to work for people or it's not. And that's it, you know?
And I mean, Deadpool's kind of is sort of like an annoying character anyway. So maybe
I mean, I definitely think he's annoying. I mean,
he's annoying to the other kids. Some of the other kids.
Yeah. He's like, this is a weird pull. Probably nobody's seen this movie, but there's this old Jon Favreau, Vince Vaughn movie called Made, where basically the Vince Vaughn character is sort of like Deadpool. He's always talking. He's always joking. It's relentless. But then, unlike Wade, who's very capable, the Vince Vaughn character is also like getting people in trouble. He almost gets them killed. He's doing all this really stupid stuff. And Made honestly pushes it way too far, in my opinion. Like, it ultimately doesn't work, even though there's a fantastic third act thing of the Vince Vaughn character sort of saving the day. And you're like, finally, that pays off, you know? So I do think that you have to be careful. Like, that's sort of the thing you're talking about with, is it too many jokes? It's like, you don't mind for him to be irritating people because that's what he intends to do. That's part of his goal. But like, if it becomes a chore for the reader, then you've gone way too far. You know, if the reader's not enjoying themselves anymore, like, you've lost the plot, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, and can I just say, I forget what number it was, but one of my all-time favorite Deadpool issues is when you had him go to Krakoa and tell off the X-Men.
Issue 6. It was my favorite issue to write, for sure. I had so much fun. Yeah, I love that. And I think that he has a point. He has a good point, which is why we sort of enjoy seeing him yell at them. But he's also completely unreasonable. Like, I had some people who seemed a little mad at his message. And I was like, I guess I understand, but he's not a message character. Like, someone screaming at the top of your lungs while wearing a crown that other people are fascists it's supposed to be commentary. It's not literal, you know, like, so I don't know. It's a bit of a mix. You're always running a high wire act with Deadpool. I've loved it, but it's tricky for sure.
I mean, I thought it was good because it's almost like certain people on the internet. It's like, don't judge me, but I'm going to judge you.
Yeah. It's definitely got that vibe for sure. And Kevin LeBronda drew all those X-Men. He did such an amazing job. It was such a demanding issue. Plus, one of the cutest Jeff Landsharks we've ever gotten. What a win.
Yes.
Plus, designing Jelby, the greatest I don't want to say the greatest weird translucent character because Glob is out there too, but they should be best friends, those two.
And you probably have the grossest teleporter ever.
Yes, I do. I do. When we were creating things, I was like, I really need a teleporter. I was like, how gross can I make this that makes sense for Deadpool's world?
Ray's got another comment. Please keep Elsa Bloodstone active in the Marvel universe.
If I have anything to say about it, she'll always be somewhere. I love that character. I think she's amazing. I think a lot of people are being exposed to her in Deadpool, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's always funny to me. I have so many great fans, and a lot of them talk to me on Twitter or whatever, and you get in this headspace of just thinking that those people, because they're so involved and they like your work so much, you just sort of start to assume they've read everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, oh, this Elsa Bloodstone, who is she? She's great. And I'm like, haven't you read all my work? I jammed her into Jessica Jones. I jammed her into A-Force, and now I'm jamming her in here. She goes where I go. That's what we do.
Except the shark, but your work is global now because yes, Ray is from Australia, so.
Oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really when I did my Kickstarter for my novel way back 8 years ago, whatever it was, that was a really great experience as far as reminding myself about audiences not being global. I mean, United States, I've lived here my whole life. It's very easy to think it's the center of the world. It's very easy to get caught up in whatever place you live, feeling like the center of your world. And just shipping the international packages for my Kickstarter, it was such an eye-opening experience that all these people from all different parts of the world wanted this book. And it really helps me ever since then keep in mind a little bit, like, you're talking to more people than you realize from more to separate places and walks of life than you realize.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
pretty great. It's pretty cool.
I'm sure it is, but I did want to ask you. You were talking about the cosmic stuff, writing the cosmic stuff. A lot of techno babble, right? And some of it, like, made up.
Yeah. Same reason nobody should put me on Tony Stark anytime soon. It's like, I don't know. I'm not really a machine head. Like, what do I know about cars and suits and whatever? But I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think putting someone like me on one of those books can be a good thing, because it opens it up to people who aren't necessarily super nerds for that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, you almost get like a more layman approach to the character. That's not always the right call, but sometimes it could be interesting. So yeah, put me on all the smart characters. Put a dumb girl like me on all the science geniuses. Let's do some Illuminati stuff, and I'll just struggle all the way through it.
But yeah, no, speaking of the cosmic, I was feeling bad because, I guess COVID must, with the shutdown and everything, Empire, once it came back, it was coming out like once a week. So they were really like pumping out the Captain Marvel issues, every week or every other week. And I was like, oh, good for Kelly. But I was like, you're probably sitting there going, how long it took me to write those? And like, not every week.
Yeah, it was sort of fun though. To people were really excited, especially it was fun because that L'Oreal character, people were really excited about her. And so I was happy that they were able to sort of get her every week for 4 weeks or something like that. I think maybe it was over 5 weeks or something, but yeah, it was pretty fast. But yeah, they can't all come out that fast. I don't know people who, I don't really, I mean, yes, I write a lot of books. So if I wrote fewer books, maybe I could do a double ship comic, but I find double ship comics very tiring just to even think about. I mean, like, I don't know how Nick Spencer does it on Amazing Spider-Man. It just seems really overwhelming to me and stressful. I guess there's a point where you just get far enough out that it's not quite so like strenuous, but I think Mariko Tamaki for Wonder Woman probably is doing two a month, maybe maybe so, not. Yeah. And then I know Tom King was for Batman Forever, and I don't know, is Tinian doing that as well? Oh, so much.
Yeah.
So much. I mean, I know he's Batman, so we got to have 1,000 books, but so a good way to give your writer a heart attack. I don't know.
Oh yeah. And then today with the exercise Batman 100, so he had to put out a bigger issue too.
Yeah. That's such a huge accomplishment and number. It's really great.
Okay. So on that topic, what are you reading comic wise?
Oh man, I'm so behind. I'm always behind. I've been loving Tinian's Something is Killing the Children. I am very behind on his Batman, I'm sorry to say, but I'm sure it's great. I haven't read his Department of Truth yet, but it's sitting in my little to read folder. I am absolutely in love with Zeb Wells' Hellions.
Hmm.
It's like my favorite X book. I just love it so much. You guys don't have it yet, but I read issue 5 last week because I had the PDF, and I laughed. I think there was a laugh out loud on every page. That's unheard of. How could it be that funny? It seemed like I was being tricked somehow. And that had incredible art by Carmen Canero. And so I'm loving that. I recently really loved Matt Rosenberg and Otto Schmidt's Hawkeye Freefall. I adored that.
Oh yeah.
Um, let's see. I have started reading Mariko Tamaki's Wonder Woman, and I'm really enjoying it. I don't think I'm caught up. I think I've only read 2 issues, but sorry, it's so hard to think. I'm like behind on everything else just about. There was something I read. Oh, I'm really behind on Tom Taylor's Suicide Squad, but I was loving that. The first few issues I read. His new 7 Secrets is great. Oh, I know. Al Ewing, and I'm sorry I forget the artist's name, have their great new creator owned out now.
Oh, yeah.
We only find them when they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
I think issue 2 just came out this week, maybe, but issue 1 is the one I've read, and it was incredible.
Have you been reading Al's Immortal Hulk?
I have, although I'm not caught up. I think
Yeah.
I read through. What are they on? I think I read through 28 or 30, maybe. But yeah, it's an incredible run.
Oh yeah, I love his run. Because I love Joe Fixit, so I'm like, oh yeah, I'm
Oh
there.
yeah, you are excited then.
Yeah.
No, he's doing really incredible, such a deep dive on the character, and what a great character that deserves it, right? Like such a complex character. But the thing I love most about that is I just love seeing books in this day and age get a longer run. It's really rare, so it's nice to see that book really taking off like that, and a reminder that sometimes they can go for more than 12 issues.
Yeah. Well, they do. They just renumber.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I don't expect Captain Marvel to go as long as Immortal Hulk because it's pretty unheard of. But yeah, we've really surprised everyone by just kind of keep going. I mean, I'm writing 25 now, and we're already plotting out for what 26 through 30 are gonna, or 27 through 30 are gonna be. So
I was gonna say you're already in the
yeah.
20s, so I mean that's these days
Yeah,
that's
no, 30. She hasn't seen 30 since she's been Captain Marvel, I don't think. I don't even think she saw 25 since she was Captain Marvel. So we're definitely like, I think the 50 saw, maybe it just went to 50, but the Brian Reed, when that was when she was Ms. Marvel.
it's Marvel, yeah.
So yeah, so I think Kelly Sue DeConnick's run would have made it to those higher numbers, but it had Secret Wars in the middle or it had something in the middle that they rebooted to, right?
Yeah, I think she kind of got 2 series. Yeah, 'cause it might have been.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you've got that first one with the McKelvey cover, and then you've got the reboot had David Lopez on it. So
yeah.
I don't remember why that happened, or they just were rebranding. But yeah, if you put those two together, it's a pretty long run. So
Yeah, it might have been Secret Wars because I think everyone got renumbered at that point.
well, but the more I think about it, because that was the first work I ever did at Marvel, was Captain Marvel and the Carol Corps. I was
Yeah.
co-writing that with Kelly Sue, and so I actually think we came back from that, and she had a final issue.
Oh,
And then I think she left. So, and then I think it went to the Captain Marvel with the Alpha Flight stuff in space
mm-hmm.
from the showrunners. I forget their name. So it must have been something else, but that stuff happens all the time. So.
But you said you're plotting out the Captain Marvels like through 30. Like how much heads up do they give you, like, to keep going or to stop? Or
They give you, I mean, unfortunately these days you find out pretty early if you're going to have to stop, which is a problem. And I think even they would say it's a problem because you sometimes don't have a chance for any readership to be found. It's like well, the people who bought number one, and then it's just going to be a war of attrition from whatever that number one number was, which doesn't allow for things like what happened with Al's Immortal Hulk to happen, where that actually built on
Mm.
its audience instead of having attrition. At the same time, you can't expect them to have that be the standard for every book, because it's incredibly rare in modern comics that you build month to month as opposed to lose month to month. It's just the way it is. I'm sad to say. So it's the exception, not the rule. And that's, you gotta have some understanding about, they're trying to run a business here. And if the numbers don't work, the numbers don't work. For plotting a new arc, I think you get plenty of time. I think it's a little harder for me. Maybe just because that's an area in which I feel I'm a little weak. Plotting a new arc, I'm a little slow on that. Like, I attribute some of that to, I've gotten better at it, but I attribute some of that to being a fear of getting lost in the woods and not knowing where it's going, because it happened to me on one project one time. And ever since that harrowing experience, I don't really want to go into anything unless I'm pretty sure I at least know how it ends or what the markers are on the way to that ending. And so I tend to sort of over develop whatever the pitch is, so it can take me a little longer. But it's probably a pretty reasonable amount of time that they let you know. I mean, like, we've known since July or August, I think, that we were going to get an arc after this, the New World arc that starts in October. We knew we were going to get another one after that. So that's a lot of time.
And I mean, part of me, I'm not a writer, but do you like plot out like a whole arc and then just decide how to break it up for the issues, or do you just like write issue 1, write issue 2, write issue 3?
It really, I mean, everyone does it differently. And Black Widow is actually a good example where poor Sarah just sort of had to trust me, because I mean, I gave her the pitch for what it was and she knew what it was and she signed off on it. And fortunately, I was at a sort of high point at Marvel where I feel like they were really trusting me. Like, they were really happy with how things were going on Captain Marvel and stuff. And so they sort of let me turn in my homework without showing the work a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't so worried about it because I really knew what I needed to do in this arc, and I knew how tight it needed to be focused, and that it was going to be these really emotional beats, and that I wanted these sort of cinematic action set pieces. But at some point in there, if you don't do breakdowns for your issues, you're hurting everyone, including yourself. So I always, there are times when I've sort of skimped on it initially, but it's always a problem. You got to go in and break it down. Comics are just too short and move too fast, and good comics demand a very specific thing that is very hard to pull off. And we hear readers complaining about it all the time as evidence, which is that it has to be one part of a larger story. Well, most of the time, unless you're doing a standalone story, which is pretty rare these days, it has to be one part of a larger story that also stands on its own as an enjoyable reading experience. And those two things are very hard to marry. So the best way to do it, in my experience, is to do breakdowns or summaries of each issue so that you know where are the spots I have to hit, what's the cliffhanger or OMG moment that I'm going to need to land on to sort of anchor that issue, to sort of get people to come back for the next one. So the sooner you do that stuff, the better, to be honest, for everyone, but especially yourself.
And I mean, we just like lightly touched on Deadpool, like today's issue. I mean, talk about it ending on a cliffhanger.
Which, so, we've been setting that up, what happened in today's issue with this Bone Beast thing. We've basically been setting that up since, issue 2 of Deadpool, where she shot him with that weird bullet.
Yeah.
And he went to the other dimension. So she sent him here. and he hated it, and now they're back. And so, her having betrayed him is both a reveal and also something that he probably should have seen coming. That said, I think her betrayal is a lot more complicated and nuanced than just setting him up. Like, it's not that
Oh,
simple. So, and we'll see that play out over the next couple issues. Plus, in the next issue, Jeff gets a mouth knife. So, who doesn't want to show up for that?
whoa, nice.
It's just a knife he's carrying around because he doesn't think teeth are enough, I guess. It was inspired by Gerardo drawing him with that flare in his mouth at the end of this issue, and I was like, oh man, that's too cute. We got to give him more things to put in his mouth. So he gets a knife.
And I must say, yeah, that ending, I'm like, is it a really betrayal? Was it a trick? But yeah, I didn't know where you were going because like the whole time they keep saying bone beast. And I'm like, is Deadpool going to make a penis joke? But I guess not.
He does make one, but I think it's not until issue 9. Yeah, because I think I just did the lettering pass on it. But
Like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Was,
and you were talking about them letting you know. Do you know, like, how far out do you know? Well, you said issue 9. Is that?
I'm writing 10 right now, which is the King in Black tie-in book. So that'll be 30 pages, and Gerardo's drawing that, and I think it's going to be really, really fun and crazy and wild. I mean, tie-in books aren't always my favorite, but Deadpool being in charge of a monster island and controlling most of the monsters in the world under his, as his citizens at a time when the King in Black stuff happens, it's obvious you have to write that story, right?
Well, that's like, yeah, I think sometimes the tie-in books like hurt the momentum and stuff, but like Empire, I think, yeah, it really put the spotlight on Carol and Empire.
Yeah, we were sort of locked into that because Dan and Al were writing so much of her in the book, which she needed to be. She belongs there. She's a big gun and she's a cosmic hero, and so she belonged right where they put her. But because of that, we were sort of locked into, well, we got to do something within that. So we worked pretty hard to carve out our own separate story that would feel good to the Captain Marvel fans, regardless of whether they were reading the event or not. I do think it was definitely the most successful tie-in I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
I can put most of that on people loving L'Oreal, and so that really worked out. But yeah, no, that worked out for us. I think the King in Black is going to work out well too. I mean, it just happened to hit right where we had the end of our arc, and so it just really sort of worked out nicely.
So is that like December, January, maybe? I think.
Yeah, I think ours is in early January. I think, yeah. So yeah, 7, 8, 9 are October, November, December, and then 10 is January. Yeah.
Oh, so any guest stars in that issue?
Elsa will be in there. Jeff is in there, and then a lot of the monsters that we've seen before, and then some of the King in Black, fun nonsense stuff that's sort of driving it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just thinking about the Empire stuff. Yeah, because I talked to Al a few weeks ago. So are those again crossovers a little more difficult just because you have more chefs in the kitchen, and
I think they can be like Empire, and this is nobody's fault. Empire ended up being a real nightmare for me, even though I'm really pleased with how it all came out. And again, it's not. I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying Al and Dan are to blame, but because Carol was such a big part of what they were doing, there were no real gaps.
Yeah.
In where I could feasibly fit the story in. It's like, oh wait, hold on, I know we're supposed to save the sun, but I gotta go do this thing on Earth. Like, it was just it. So I really twisted myself into a lot of knots trying to make it work out, especially when we realized a little bit late in the game that the problems were worse than we thought. Like, as some scripts were coming in and how involved she was, we were like, how is this ever going to make sense to readers? So And then it got further complicated by COVID, and so the whole schedule changed, and so that was sort of a nightmare for hopefully mostly just me and my editors and not a lot of other people. But um, it was it was simultaneously the worst time I've ever had writing a tie-in story, for logistical reasons, but also the most successful I think it's ever been for me, both as fan reaction to it and also just like my how pleased I am with how it turned out. So I don't know, I guess maybe there's a lesson in there about how horrible things are, and there's a payoff that's got similar value to how horrible it was for you. For example, I didn't really care for the War of the Realms tie-in we did
Mm.
on, I guess it would be issues 6 and 7 of Captain Marvel, so long time ago now.
Mhm.
And they were fine. They were fine. We got to do some fun body swap stuff with Carol and Doctor Strange and whatever, but like we didn't really get to use Enchantress as much as we wanted, and the art wasn't quite what I was looking for some it wasn't just completely in sync with what I'm trying to do, or
And
what I
again,
was trying to do.
it's like more mystical, and that Carol's kind of
Yeah,
fish out of water there. Empire
I
was a much
mean,
better fit.
but honestly, it's sort of I should make Carol fight magic more often, because in that same sort of Superman way,
Yeah.
it's a big vulnerability for her. And so I had a lot of, yeah, I don't want to put it on other people that's why I didn't like the issue. I just think I find two issue arc harder to write than
Mm.
anything else, because at least in a done in one, you only have those 20 pages. So you're nailing it or you're failing on that one issue. In two issues, you can maybe pull off the first one and still completely drop the ball on the second one. Um, and I'm not saying that's what happened. It what we did is fine. There was nothing wrong with it. It just didn't resonate for me and feel sort of important,
Mm.
um, in the way things sometimes in the way you hope they do when you're writing this stuff. Um, so that's an example of doing a tie-in where I didn't love it. When A Force tied in to Civil War II, I also had some problems. Like, I was excited to come in and sort of address some of the character stuff, especially with Carol, because she was taking a position I didn't really agree with, but that's what you're sort of inheriting. And so you got to figure out how does Carol see this? Why does this point of view work for her? And so I enjoyed some of the challenges in that. But yeah, I mean, how much something works or doesn't work, it's like it's hard enough when it's just your book that you're doing, and when you add in all those other factors, it gets complicated fast.
Yeah.
Um,
That's I guess what you're saying is that's like the big hurdle was just like you're writing by committee. The regular series is mostly your idea.
yeah, and it's
Warner.
not that other people are trying to mess up what you're doing. It's just you're just adding a lot of balls to the juggling act,
Yeah,
or a lot of more plates you've got to spin, and so it takes a toll.
you have to take everyone else's ideas, put your own spin on it, and yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, um, I was gonna say, all right. Before I let you go, because I know you're writing 50 books, I'm sure at once. Is there anything else you're writing besides the Marvel stuff?
I am writing Sabrina.
Oh, that's right.
We
Lilith loves that book.
Yeah, yeah. It's so I think 3 came out in September. I think 4 is out at the end of October, but I could be wrong. I know all the schedules are all screwed up, but yeah, that's another 5-issue miniseries. So we're right in the middle of that. It's coming along great. Veronica and Andy Fisher, incredible collaborators. Archie is really fun to work for, so it's great. So yeah, it's Deadpool, Black Widow, Captain Marvel, and Sabrina.
Nice. And all right. But we do have a Capes and Lunatics one, but can I get to a drop of you saying this is Kelly Thompson and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatics Sidekicks podcast?
Sure. This is Kelly Thompson, and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatic. Oops, let me try that again. Uh, this is Kelly Thompson. You're listening to the Capes and Lunatics Sidekicks project. That's hard to say, man.
Yes.
Capes and Lunatics. Why is that so hard to say? Sorry, man.
That's all right. No, and all right. I was gonna say thank you. How can we get the word out that if you're waiting for this Black Widow movie, go pick up the comic and
If I knew, please tell me. All I've got is Twitter at this point. I don't know anything else.
Let's blow it up on social media, people. Right? Okay, so that's what I was going to ask you about your social media and stuff. So that's all you have right now is Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram, but it's just not that. It's mostly filled with cats. My Instagram. I don't find it conducive to comic book art because the formatting is like the wrong shape and everything.
Yeah.
So it's not great. But so on Instagram, I'm 1979 semifinalist. That's also my website, 1979 semifinalist. On Twitter, because of character limitations, I'm 79 semifinalist. But that's where I'm the most active if you're looking to connect. So.
Oh yeah, I always see you on Twitter.
Yeah, it's a problem.
So yeah, spread the word, people. Black Widow, Deadpool, Captain Marvel, Sabrina. Go pick them up.
Thanks so much for having me on. It was great.
Hey, thank you. It's always great talking to you. Why do you think I keep coming back?
All right. Well, good luck and take care, okay?
Oh, thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye. So yes, everyone, that was the great Kelly Thompson. Once again, go pick up recording this. Well, this should hit the podcast tomorrow. So yes, October 7th, Deadpool 7 was out today. Black Widow #2 was out today. Captain Marvel was just out not too long ago. There's probably another one coming up soon, so go buy those. Like I said, Lilith Hellfire and Charlie Esser always talking about the greatness of the Sabrina book, so go pick all those up. All right, so thank you for joining me and Kelly Thompson. I'm sure you weren't here to listen to me, just Kelly. So let me pull up the schedule here, everyone, and I will tell you what's coming up next on the Comic Capers, and I believe next week is a Wade's World. So yes, so we talked to Kelly next week. Come back for Wade's World, Night of the Living Deadpool miniseries. And then in 2 weeks, back with Comic Capers. Give you your Halloween episode. We're going to be covering 2 issues of the original Ghost Rider series from 1982, Ghost Rider 68 and 69. That's right. Had to hook Lilith up with those. So yes, so send us your thoughts. Hey, any thoughts for Kelly? Yeah, contact her on Twitter or email me. I'll get those to her. Or if you're a comic creator and you want to talk to us, please get a hold of us. You can always email us, capesandlunatics@gmail.com, or call the voicemail 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And remember, you can follow Comic Capers on Facebook, Twitter. You can follow all of our shows on all the social medias. Links to the our YouTube channel. You can watch this video. Me and Kelly, our discussion. Links to the Patreon where we talk all things Star Trek. Links to merchandise. You can get yourself some Capes and Lunatics merch. Links to everything, like I said, all of our stuff, all in one place. That's Linktree, linktr.ee/capesandlunatics. And remember to support our sponsors, Tweaked Audio, Hunt a Killer. Go pick up both of those. Use the code Southgate for a handy little discount. And then go pick up Pod Life the book for those of you interested in the ins and outs of podcasting, written by various podcasters. I believe most or all those from Southgate Media Group. Volume 1, because Volume 2 is already in the works. And when you go on Amazon to buy that and everything else, use the link for Southgate Media Group right down there in the show notes. It helps us support this show, the Southgate Media Group Network, and that wacky, crazy Deadpool-esque character, Rob Master Doom Southgate.
Make it rain, so says Master Doom. Why did your eye drift over to my box?
And Lilith is usually here, so yeah, follow Lilith at Lilith Hellfire on Twitter, at Lilith Hellfire 86 and at Lilith Hellfire 69, both of those on Instagram. We missed you this time, Lilith.
Bye, Felicia.
See, she's always here in spirit. So thank you for joining us. again, come back next week for another Wayne's World, Night of the Living Deadpool, followed by Ghost Rider 68 and 69 from that original series. Nice little Halloween episode for you. Followed up by Return of the Living Deadpool in 3 weeks. So, lots of stuff coming your way here on the Capes and Lunatics Sidekicks and the Capes and Lunatics Podcast. All right, everyone. Thank you, Kelly Thompson. Always just talk to us a few times. Always takes time out of a very busy writing schedule. We always appreciate it, Kelly. Thank you so much. Go pick up all her books. And until next time, catch ya.